Good night. I'll get it. I gotta close the door. What?
You don't need people watching in. Okay, ready?
If you would just start off and just say your name, and
I think where we're taping it, one of the things I ask you is to say your name, where we're recording this, where we're
Okay.
County Community College, et cetera. And then we'll go right into what branch of service you were in.
Okay.
Talk
You
about
ready?
that. Okay, are you ready?
yes.
Yeah. My name is Mary Erin O'Connor Blair, and we're taping here at Herkimer County Community College in Herkimer, New York.
Mary, would you give us your background and how you got started in the service?
I joined the Navy in 1972. I had just graduated from Delhi Ag and Tech, and I was living in Syracuse, and I was looking for a challenge, and so I decided that I wanted a big challenge, something that other people weren't doing, so I decided to join the Navy. I was not unfamiliar with the Navy, as my parents are both World War II veterans. My mom serving in Washington during World War II, and my dad in the Army during World War II. So I wasn't unfamiliar with the service, but I was drawn to the Navy more so than the Army, I got to be honest with you, because I liked their uniforms better, and I'd watched and seen pictures of my mother, and I was, I won't say moved to follow in her footsteps, but I guess I was moved to follow in her footsteps.
What kind of things did your parents tell you about their work?
My mother frequently talked about women being in during World War II and what it was like, and the things they had to take jobs over for men so they could go out to sea. And it was a whole new breaking ground for women during World War II. They had just established women in the service, and they weren't quite sure what to do with them. And so it was just the whole start of women in the service. So it was a new ground she was breaking, and she speaks fondly of her time in the service and the friends she made, and what it was like for women to be on the same level as men to serve their country. Usually they were back home serving, but my mother wanted to put on the uniform and serve right up next to the men.
How did her experiences or your experiences parallel hers in terms of women being involved in the military?
I would think by the time I went in 1972, and my mom had got out in 45, that they had come a long way, but really they hadn't, nowhere like they are today. I went to boot camp in Bainbridge, Maryland, where I spent 10 weeks, all with women. We didn't see a man except for a medic in the whole 10 weeks I was there. I spent a short period of time at the Naval Air Station in Norfolk, Virginia, and they had women there, but when I got to the submarine base in Groton, Connecticut, and this was 1972, there were a handful of women on the base, and we didn't even have a barracks. When I went to check in at night, I said, "Where's the barracks?" And they said, "We have no female barracks," waifs at that time they called us. And we ended up living in an apartment in the officers' quarters, which was pretty good because, we didn't have to live in the barracks, we had our own apartment. But if you were to tell a woman in the service today that they had no barracks because they didn't have enough women, they would probably look at you and go, how can that be? We were few in number, despite all those years of women in the service. So.
If you had to take part of your experience in the service and say, what was the most impressive to you? And I don't mean necessarily good or bad, I just mean that impression. What was it about the service and being in the service that left you with the greatest stories?
Oh, I would say the camaraderie of the people and how they felt for each other and what they were willing to do for each other. I met people, I was at the submarine base, and I met people that were studying, to go into submarine service, and they knew that, if something happened to that submarine, and they were going to have to go behind that hatch and close that door, knowing that that person, you were going to have to leave them in there, and they would die. And these people, were willing to do this, knew what they had to do and were willing to do this. And also that they would do anything for their shipmate. They would give their life. They would give their life jacket. They have a special bond that I'd never seen or experienced before, except from my dealings with my parents. They would give their life for their shipmate. And it was very moving to me to see how they cared and took care of each other. And, they move as a unit, they work as a unit, kind of like a family unit, but just not related.
If you reflect on that, can you think of, just in your own reflection, why?
Well, you start out in the Navy or in any military service where they take you and make you a part of the military. The first thing you want to do is not wear civilian clothes. You want to get your civilian clothes off, and you want to wear a uniform and be part of that group. For 10 weeks, you live, you sleep, you work as a group. And because you work so close together, you form a special bond. I'm still in contact with 3 girls that I was in boot camp with that I haven't seen since 1972. I have remained in contact with them for over 30 years. We just formed the bond, and at each duty station I went to, it's just, I guess I don't even know the word I want to use. It just is a thing that click. You work hard, you play hard, you become like a family, and you love each other and like a family, and you're willing to make sacrifices like you would in a family. I've seen people that would take watches for other people so they could be with their family. It's phenomenal. It's been going on for years.
Tell us some more about you being on the submarine and your duty.
Well, I wasn't on a submarine. I was at the submarine base in Groton. And another thing is you don't really know what people will do. And I didn't know anything about submarines when I got there, but I started working with these gentlemen, these sailors, and I saw what they were doing and what they were willing to do. And they would go out, and they couldn't get mail, they couldn't get messages, and this was before email. And they'd be gone for 3 months, and they didn't see or hear from their families. And if they're on a sub and their parent died, they didn't tell them. They didn't know until they came back that someone in their family had died. They would not surface. It was the Cold War. You didn't surface. And I was in awe to learn that these people would do that stuff. And the thing about those people is they were unsung heroes because you never heard about them. I mean, usually even today you hear of these aircraft carriers overseas and all these big ships and units going. But here was this group of people silently doing their job, not asking for recognition. And to me, that's left a lasting impression. Military people aren't there for the glory of it. They're there to do a job, and they're not looking for glory. And I was truly, truly impressed with how what they were willing to do, and it was phenomenal.
Tell us some more about what you did. What was life like for you in the service?
Well, when I first joined the Navy, there were very few jobs women could do. You could be a medic, you could be a clerk, storekeeper, administrative type duties. There weren't maybe 5 jobs when I enlisted that they showed me that I could do. Since I had an aversion to blood and stuff, I decided the medics weren't for me, and so I was a personnelman, and I took care of people's records. At least I started out that way and worked my way up to counseling after 26 years. I used to transfer people. And when I first started doing it, I didn't think of it much. And you have to remember, Vietnam was going on at this time, and I sent a lot of people to Vietnam. I would type their orders up, get their medical records, take care of everything they needed. But I got to say, because of what was going on here in the States, I really didn't realize where I was sending them. I was sending them into harm's way. And until someone in my hometown, a kid that I'd gone to school with, was killed, to put a personal face on it. So after that, whenever I sent somebody overseas to Vietnam, I looked at that person in a whole different way. You know, it surely stopped and made me think. You know, it wasn't a person on a piece of paper. And I did a variety of jobs, and they were all working with sailors. And then I got into counseling with them, and it was a very, very rewarding experience for me.
The counseling would have put a new face on what you were doing. Tell me what you want people to know from having counseled with sailors.
Well, the counseling I did with them was, on that level, was to help them with their military careers. Did you want to stay in? Did you want to get out? Was this the job for you? Maybe, you know, a young sailor joins at 17 and doesn't know what they want to do, and they get into something and they decide they want to stay, but they don't want to be in the engine room the rest of their life. So you have an experienced person that will say, okay, you want to stay? What are we going to do to help you get into the job you want and make a career out of it? Or they had special counseling for, you know, problems that sailors have, but my counseling was pretty much helping them get advanced, get courses done, make a good life out of their military career with the Navy. And it was rewarding to see someone that you started working with that maybe was floundering and didn't know where they wanted to go, and maybe you sent them in the right direction, and you saw they stayed and you saw that they advanced and they found a home in the Navy. It was really, really rewarding.
You talked about being in the reserves here. You retired. After that length of service, what would you want people who just have no idea what that experience is like? What do you want them to know?
I'd like them to know that maybe why military people feel differently. They feel special towards each other. If you see veterans groups, and they're all over, VFW and American Legion, the reason they're special and they have these groups is they have formed this special camaraderie, and they feel comfortable with each other. They talk the same lingo. They've had the same experiences, but they're proud. They're proud of their military service. And a lot of times it's not really, people don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear about what you did while you were in the service. But veterans like to get together and talk, and they feel comfortable talking about it. You know, I'd like people to know it is a great experience. It's great people willing to give their lives for their country, and that people should take the time and listen to what they have to say. And they should listen to these vets. And I know sometimes it's hard because older vets like to talk and stuff, but if you stop and listen to almost any veteran, you're going to find something. They're going to have something interesting or something worthwhile to listen about what they have to say about their time.
Give me your favorite story about the time when you were serving.
My favorite story. Well, I guess one of my most exciting time was, it was just about the time that the war was over in Vietnam, and they were going to bring back the POWs. And I can't remember where they were going to bring them back, but they selected several of us from the submarine base to go down to where they were bringing them back to, one of the naval hospitals. And I remember thinking how proud I was that they would consider me to go down there and do whatever I could do for those people. And I remember that I called my parents and said, oh, oh, I'm going to go down. It never came to pass because I think they put them somewhere else. But the idea of helping a person that had been a POW just swelled me. I was just so excited, you know. The rest of my time was just helping people, and I guess I would say for 26 years that was my pleasure and my privilege to work with these people and help them. They're just so special.
What was the most difficult thing about your time in service?
I guess at that time it was the difference between men and women in the service.
Can I stop you for a second? Would you add the question to that and say one of the most difficult things?
Okay. Well, one of the most difficult things I experienced while I was in the service at that time, this was in the 70s, not later in my career, but in the beginning of my career, how at that point there was still prejudice against women being in the service. Sometimes we had a connotation that was not nice, you know, about women, what type of women went into the service, that we may have been less than other women, and why did we join, what were our motives. Guys used to say to me, you're looking for a husband. And I said, no, I'm not looking for a husband. Granted, there were plenty of men around, but I was looking to serve my country. I was looking to travel. I was looking to break the stereotype of my mother. I surely think now that if I had had the chance like they are today, as a reserve, I went to Adak, Alaska, and they pulled up with a deuce and half to take our luggage, and when the girl opened the truck door, I saw she was maybe a 5'3" girl, young CB, driving that truck. And at that time I had progressed pretty much. I was a chief petty officer, but I was so thrilled to see that she was driving a truck and doing jobs that I might have wanted to when I went in 72, but that were not open to me. And we were still pretty much stereotyped in that. And that was difficult for me. And also, too, you know, it was the 60s and in the early 70s, and, you know, I guess it was, you know, free love and all that stuff, and that wasn't really kind of cool to be in the service at that time. So that was kind of difficult. That they didn't really like military people during then, and they thought probably even less of women. So I'm really thrilled to see they have broke that stereotype, and you see women as commanding officers of ships, and they're just doing almost everything in the Navy. They're just a little younger, which I was in right now, and I could try something different. It would be a better place for my daughter. You know, it would be she would have more opportunities than I had, and I would be glad to see that. I would be really glad.
What would you say to young people? I think that you give them a positive look at service, but say something to young people about service.
I would say if a person was considering joining the service, I'm not saying they should make you know, it's not a lifetime commitment for everyone. I was in and out, but I would say that they would find they could get a good education. They would learn some discipline, which in the beginning sometimes is hard to swallow, but in the end it will last with you the rest of your life and improve to make your life probably a little bit better. That you would derive such a camaraderie and self-satisfaction out of serving your country and doing a job that it would remain with you the rest of your life till the day you die. And when you die, you truly feel it as the veterans I take care of, they want that flag draped over them when they go. And I do too.
I like your statements. They're working for us. I think we hit on just about most everything. I think we hit it. I think we. Wonderful.
Wow.
That was so good. Mary, I see that you brought something special. Would you show us what you have?
Yes, ma'am. I brought this today. This is called a shadow box. And my husband was kind enough when I retired from the reserves to make this box for me. Basically, this is my whole military career in a box. Starting off with a couple of things. My original dog tags from boot camp, and a patch I wore to show that I was a recruit. Also, some of the ribbons and medals that I earned while I was in the service. This is my rating badge, and basically to sailors that tells what I did in the Navy and what my rank was. And then on the bottom here, my husband put a little plaque on there that tells how many years I did. So I bet basically you could say this is my military career in a box. And people will say to me, I have this at my office where I'm a state veterans counselor, where I take care of veterans. And when they come in my office, a lot of times the vets will say, whose medals are those? And I proudly say, those are my medals. I am a woman, but I earned all these medals and ribbons. And to people that may not have been in the service, they may look like trinkets, but to anyone that's been in the service, these are just examples of what we've done and where we've been, and we wear these with pride. We really do, and we take it really seriously. So he preserved these for me forever, and so I'm really proud to have them. I guess I wouldn't say it's a bragging thing, but it's a pride thing. It's a pride thing, and so I can also say, yes, these are medals, and these are earned by a woman. So, yep, pretty nice, huh? Mm-hmm.
All right, now, if she holds it right there, why don't you go in, and why don't you get your tight shot for a cutaway of the flag, and just kind of just do a little bit of a pan, so you get as tight as you can in on them, so that we don't see the edges if possible, if that's as tight. And yeah, yeah, because I can always use that to cut away to, and come back out to her. You know what I mean? And then maybe tilt down so you can see them closer. Yeah, see, that's very good.
Not bad for,
background shot for a graphic.
not bad for a woman.
I've had some interesting experiences in broadcasting as well.
I'm sure.
Probably share a few stories.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, you can see it right.
Yeah, career counseling. I worked in recruiting too. One day in our office, they had some of the correctional people next door, and they were banging on the walls, and they banged on the wall, and it fell. I almost had a fit.
I think that shot at the top and that tilt down, it's kind of nice, even if it's just one in the center, yeah, and then just blow up to get to the edges of the box, and then just kind of tilt down, so just to the bottom, yeah. That's a great cutaway. We can use that easy and come back to her as she's explaining. I think that's great. For you. You can use it.
Thank.
Yep.
Oh,
I think we can go with it.
oh
It's so
God! Wait till I
good.
tell my.
Well, you